I'm uploading this YouTube video because of my local postal carrier named Scarlett. I don't know her last name, don't want to know her last name. She better hope I never get her last name. But I've already emailed a government organization, prc.gov, last night, and I'm waiting for, that was Friday night, so it's a weekend now, and I'm waiting for a response from them. Hopefully Monday they'll get back to me about the situation at my address. My new address here for the last 4 years in my city of Bowling Green, Kentucky, has been, the carrier has been problematic. She's caused problems from day one. I greeted her the very first time she had a package delivery. I told her that I really respect those people, the postal workers, and how hard they work. My aunt is a delivery worker. She's a postal carrier. I delivered pizza and newspapers, so I understand the delivery process and how hard it is. I made it short and sweet. She chose that opportunity to basically sit there and stare at me the very first meeting because she had her little chummy substitute she was training with her. And as they drove off down the driveway after that first delivery, I heard her laugh, and I'm like, that's very off-putting. But, you know, people laugh. People have quirky senses of humor. I come off weird sometimes. Other times I come off as a real charmer. Well, on this video, I'm certain I will not come off as a charmer because I'm in the middle of another one of these just really crappy situations that she just keeps putting me through. And I say that, I don't know the woman, but I know she is a woman of very poor character and very childish. She's older than me. I'm 46 now. She's probably about 60, something like that. And I've never been gamed, played, or pawned by my postal carrier. I've never had a problem with my postal carrier. I pretty much never had a problem with anybody in any service industry because I've worked my whole life and I understand. I strive to work. I respect that. Back on point, the woman's terrible. She's used every excuse in the book behind my back, I found out later from her regional supervisor, to make excuses for not delivering my mail. My complaints started three years ago. Shortly after I met the woman, she started leaving my mailbox open every time she touched it. So just get this, get the feel for this. How would you like it if every time you went out to the mailbox, the mailbox was open? And it doesn't have a problem with closing. There's no problem with the mailbox closing because it's a cheap little plastic, government spec mailbox that you can get for cheap. But you close it the first day, you get your mail, and then you figure it just keeps happening. It happens the next time, and the next time. It took me a whole year to call in a freaking complaint. That's how laid back I was. And people say Southerners are slow. I always think we Southerners are actually very slow to something, but it's mainly slow to anger. It's ironic that people pitch us as these crazy, idiots, but really there are everywhere. There are hotheads, there's rage monsters out there and just assholes, but people in the South tend to be laid back because we just get tired of being angry. Man, who wants to walk around like that? And I was tired from the get-go, and I guess I pooped out. I really didn't feel like complaining. So I waited a whole year and called and complained, and I got a lot of reticence on the end of it. And when you get that, you don't know it at first. You don't know it until you just find yourself going on and on. So I may tend to do it in this video, kind of a misplaced aggression thing. You may get that hint, that idea, but it's not true. It's false. I just been going through some situations with the postal carrier for 4 long years. And in all this time, I've never caught her on video because it's not like that one postal worker, lazy postal worker on YouTube. My got out of the vehicle and threw something on this person's front porch. Ironically, my front porch, and I'm going to take a picture of that and insert it here, is exactly like that person's, except for the banister. I don't have a railing going up the stairs. My carrier never did that. From day one, she told me, well, when you get packages, I'll just deliver them to your front porch. Exactly the same way that lady in that other video did, except mine never got out of the vehicle. That lady has those people have the best carrier in the world compared to mine. Theirs is a saint. Mine is evil Linda. There's something wrong. There's something that didn't go quite right in this woman's head early on, and she finds people and she chooses her fights. And she takes it out on people she just doesn't like. I've never done that. I've never done that in a job. That's what I meant to say, and that's what I mean. In no way, shape, or form did I ever get the feeling at any job, no matter how menial or personally I loved it, did I ever get the false notion and hubris that I could do anything to anybody I wanted and get away with it. So I started wondering, after about a year, I complained. She was, every time, at least 80% of the time, the woman was touching my mailbox, to make a delivery of any kind, regular mail or anything, she would leave it open. Or even if I put my rent out there, I couldn't trust that anymore. I started having to go to the local Walmart. I had to go downtown to pitch it in the post office box to make, have peace of mind, because this woman's constantly leaving the mailbox open. And I had collected mail out on the road that was wet. It was tax documents the first time I had to do it. And I started thinking, there's a pattern to this. The ads are safely delivered and closed. The mailboxes, you know how I know I've got mail is when the freaking mailbox is open. That's how I know the woman's delivered the damn mail. Yet, I never know when I've received one of these valuable ads we all trash, because they're safely closed up like a security box. And I'm like, how where's the consistency here? I have a trailer park nearby, and from day one I never suspected those people. Never. I don't talk down to people and look down at people. I was born on the west side in my town, and I got along with everybody. Never had a problem with that. And the first time I called and actually got through to her stinking supervisor, he blamed them. He blamed the mobile home park people who walk by to go to Walmart every day. In their poverty, they're checking my mailbox for mail. And I kept thinking, I just feel uneasy about that. I know the woman, it's too inconsistent. If that's the case, then why isn't it open sometimes when nothing's in it? That if the mobile home park, people who live in the mobile home park are checking my mail on a day-to-day, there's not a day they don't have to walk by. Then why isn't the mailbox open occasionally when nothing's in it? It's always the other. It's always when something is in the box. So no way to video it. It's at at the end of a 500-foot gravel drive. If I failed to mention that before. If I ramble, forgive as well, because I'm upset. Still, got a notice last night, from this woman saying, "Hey, come pick up the fetch. Here you go. I'm too lazy to roll up your driveway." 3 out of the last Amazon deliveries, or eBay deliveries, I forgot to change that address, have gone undelivered, and I've had to go downtown and fetch, because she's playing that game with me. The more I complained over the years, this is the game, the less she did right. The more she did wrong, the more excuses she created and told her boss. And at the first time she did it, if I was the boss, I'd say, I'll check that out, because I don't know. But by the time complaints from me got chronic, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago actually, midway to this point, I spoke with a regional manager who returned a call, and I'll never forget it. His first question, we exchanged courtesies, and he said, "Let me ask you this: do you have a large barking dog on your property anywhere?" And at that point, I'm like, "Oh, really?" "No, absolutely. I have cats. My girlfriend converted me, But basically, I have cats. That's it. So why do you talk about a large barking dog?" I asked him, and he said, that sounds about right. Like he had thought this already. Preconceived, notice, he already figured it out. He told me then at that point, and he did tell me this, I'm not making this up. He said, Yeah, she's been saying that about quite a few customers. I'm going to have to follow up on this. Later on, almost exactly a year later, I did find out that that regional manager, or the next one, I think it was the original one, had ended up following her around himself. Because I asked, I said, investigate? He said, yeah, we've been investigating her for 3 days. I said, well, how does that work? He said, well, I actually follow her around. And I said, so you live here and you actually follow? He said, well, I can't say, but yes, I do follow her around, and I have, and we have noticed some issues, but we're resolving those, and really nothing extreme, so there's really not much more we can do. Unfortunately, he made the same suggestion that her immediate supervisor, there's more to that next, who wasn't actually a supervisor, but let me believe he was, he made the same suggestion, saying, ending up, the final notice was, oh, you got to make sure this all clears up, why don't you just come down and get a P.O. box? That is, pay $20 to $40 a year for a P.O. box. Now, it's $40 a year, $20 for every 6 months. Or just go out and get yourself one of those expensive security locking mailboxes. And I was like, it's like extortion. I mean, if you're doing this, to me, that's really, really bad. I feel that's uncomfortable, and I feel uncomfortable. I would never do that because this woman's not doing her job at all. And she's actually playing games with me, and he actually admitted that himself. He initiated that conversation, saying that she had said this about several customers, so I knew it wasn't just me. And if you're doing that, then it's a racket. The local post office, which our local Bowling Green post office has not been without its problems. One of my friends I played, a guy I knew as a kid who played in the Little League, I will not mention his name because I still like this guy. I don't talk to him though. Haven't talked to him, just haven't seen him in 30 plus years. He ended up getting caught stealing money out of envelopes that go to the local Western kids, Western Kentucky University, from their parents for Christmas gifts. And I was like, oh my God, he did that? He was the local office manager at the local post office 20 years ago, and he'd had a spending spree. He'd stolen thousands and thousands of dollars from these kids. So nothing's perfect. But some things need to be fixed. On to Dan Abrams. First of all, my carrier's name is Scarlett something. I don't care what her last name is. I don't want to meet the woman in public. I'll do a 180. I will turn around and run from this woman if I ever see her, because I'm confident she would actually invent some excuse to call the cops on me if she ever saw me and I looked at her the wrong way. That's what people shoot people for around here in the South. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that. The intro. I'm going too far in saying that, but basically, that's crazy, and she would pull that shit. Dan Abrams called me back a year after I talked to the original regional supervisor. A man named Dan Abrams, identified himself as that, called me up and said he was her immediate supervisor, and he'd be coming over to inspect the mailbox. And he did, except he pulled up the driveway, and he didn't tell me he'd already inspected it. He checked it, and he told me he had a conversation with me that lasted about 30 minutes, at which point he was very, very defensive about her from the get-go. In fact, he had been on our initial phone conversation. He said, now, it's pretty serious to me when somebody, it wasn't real concern for her. It was more of a hubris, kind of a chauvinistic, macho bunch of crap that he pulled on the phone and in person. This guy's a diminutive fella. He shouldn't have done this. It's not right for him. It's not right for his job, his position, his position of authority. He's abusing it by protecting this woman in particular. He said from the get-go, now this is a pretty serious issue you're claiming that my carrier is guilty of, Mr. Denny, and I take these issues very seriously. You see how that sounds? It's off-putting. It puts it back on me that it's my fault and I possibly have just made these things up. I've constructed them in order to, for some reason. I'm crazy. I don't know. I'm telling lies because I just don't like postal workers. Give me a break. I never knew this woman. I have a chronic history of complaining, but from the get-go, I told them that I'd waited a year before I complained the first time. I understand there's a lot of things lost in your complaint system, but I keep going back to the model of the postal system and why it's failing. This is a very good example of why our USPS is failing and will do so. Abrams came to my house still leading me to believe that he was a supervisor. He may not have said those words, quote me on that. He may not have said those words specifically, but in our conversations, he had led me to believe, and I will protest that to the day I die, in every way. And in our conversation, that he was. And in our conversation, the way it went, he had every opportunity to clarify in the 30 minutes that he was personally talking with me on my driveway, and he chose not to. This is a full-grown man. He chose not to. In our conversation, he told me it was halfway through before I got it out of him that he'd already checked the mailbox, that I didn't see anything wrong with it. But, Mr. Denny, now it's still on you. And I kept thinking, how is it on me to have my mail correctly delivered when it is taken for granted, but it's considered, if the person doesn't do the job, they need to move on to somebody who will. There's hundreds of people, dozens at least, who could take this woman's position and do it well. I know people who would, and some, living out of dumpsters, that rehab their lives with a job like this. This woman chooses to choose people out, not just me. My neighbor has talked to me various times and told me she always leaves his mailbox open too. She doesn't deliver his mail correctly, numerous complaints. Another neighbor, the guy who used to live in this house I'm in right now, told me the same thing. I just don't understand this phenomenon. By the time Abrams left, I had to drag it out of him that he had already inspected my mailbox. First of all, I found that odd. He didn't bother to tell me, Mr. Denny, I'm Mr. Abrams. I did come by and I have already looked at your mailbox. To me, that's proper protocol. The guy says, first of all, I don't see an issue with your mailbox. He never said that. Now that is fabricated. I just made that up. Because in the real world, that should happen. What actually happened was he let me go through half the conversation without mentioning that. It was a number of obfuscations that he made on her behalf, and a lot of this chauvinistic, macho-type behavior. I was laughing at it. He was such a little guy. I was sitting there like, yeah, you can't keep defending this woman. And finally, I just said, I don't understand why you can't even, reprimand this lady. He said, well, see, that's the thing. She has seniority over me. And again, I quote, I'm looking the world right in the face. I'm telling you, I swear to God, I wish I had had a camera on that at the time. And now I have them right where we were standing, but I have one, but there's no audio, so he told me that, and I stood there amazed. And I said, what do you mean seniority? He said, then he gave me the breakdown. He said, and ironically, this is where the Postal Service breaks down, if this is true, which I doubt. He said, well, see, she's been there longer than me. And it was just that simple. Now, my mom was a teacher for 40 years. At no point would she have superseded her authority and had authority over her principal. Even a principal in the school system, that's not heard of. That's not even heard of at Taco Bell. If you walk in, and however you get manager position, whether you bop the manager or the regional supervisor or the owner or what have you, or if you're the owner's son and you instantly you're the manager, you don't have, nobody has authority over you at that store. It's not like the first person you walk in, if you jump somebody else, if you leapfrog somebody else for that position, you still have seniority over them. So why does the Postal Service not work this way? I don't believe that. I'm just saying that's what the guy said. And that's basically my argument to the guy. At the time he said it, I said, I don't understand that. And he insisted. And I didn't understand at the time because, again, he had not told me this. The meeting with Abrams was as important as the chronic failure that Scarlett, so-and-so, has failed her bad habits through the years. This meeting of him was integral to them forcing her behavior on me to accept it, making me sound stupid or crazy or whatever. I don't care what they do. This is all them. This is all in their circles downtown. They circle the wagons at our local post office worse than the police force did in Ferguson. I swear to God, they do it. We're in Los Angeles, kick a homeless man to death and then everybody's sainted. I'm sorry, but it's that important after a while. It does seem that important. Yeah, it's just a mail, you can say, but I have medicine. I have high blood pressure medicine coming to my house through Cigna. And I've had to change my mailing address for that, which is uncomfortable because it's locked to my Medicaid. I had to change it to my girlfriend's house, and that was awkward to explain to the medicine delivery company. Amazon, I've already changed all my parcel deliveries to my girlfriend's house, and just called her this morning. It's okay for me to change my eBays for her too, because that's what's been happening. 3 out of the last 5 eBay deliveries have been this. I have to go fetch. There's no security footage of her coming up the driveway. She never tried to deliver it. Yet it says, online, and I'll grab a screenshot of that too and insert it here. It says there, right there online on the tracking information that, what you don't. It says I wasn't home basically. There's no signage on any of these coming from eBay. If you have an eBay vendor who's sending you something that requires signage, you might not want to have them order from them again, because that's dumb. Who does that? This latest thing was a couple of speakers. They're tiny, they're tweeters. She could have stuck them in a mailbox, but if I get the package and she couldn't, then by her own admission, when we first met, she could have just tossed it on the porch, which she has done. She threw my Xbox controller, a wireless 360 controller. I heard it slam on the front porch when I was home one day talking with a friend, and I turned to the guy and said, "Did you just hear something slam on the porch?" And there's various incidences where I had people there with me who were witnesses that, of course, never I could call forth now, because who keeps a list of their friends that they'll have to call as witnesses for this bullshit? And again, I just got to remember all these screenshots I got to put up on this video, and also at the end, I'm going to include right after this an audio of the recording I made of this local manager I just spoke with this morning. And I don't care if it's legal. I'm so upset at this point. 4 long years. It would be wrong to say I couldn't make this recording, because this guy waited reticent through probably 5 minutes of conversation and complaints on my behalf. I like to keep him, I give him a history to justify the call, because I don't feel right calling and complaining. It's chronic. I haven't done it in like months, but it's never gotten me anywhere, so I feel like I need to give him a refresh. You'll hear that on a recording, and you'll also hear plainly this recording is completely unedited except to drop it into this video. He sits there reticent until the very end, where I slip up. And you know where I slipped up? I used the phrase "going postal" in the context of I would never come down there right now the way I feel, because you don't need people going postal. I would never do that. In all the 5 minutes of hearing the legitimate complaints that I had given him in the conversation, he chose that moment to interject. He had never said a word. It's unedited. You'll hear it. At that point, he speaks up, because, then he's offended. "Sir, I find that term offensive," he says, and I'm like, at that point, I derailed. He got what he wanted. They protect this woman. The first voice you'll hear in the recording on the other end is a woman named Vicky, and she's just a clerk down there. But from about 3 years ago, she started dropping my calls, smarting off to me on the phone. Of course, I can't prove this, because you didn't make that recording. Could I, legally? And she started dropping my calls, not putting them through, hanging up on me, being rude. This woman, Vicky, has fronted up for this carrier for years. And I want to remark on the audio you're going to hear next. Please note how Vicky knows who the carrier is, and I haven't called and spoken with her, this woman Vicky, in 8 months. In 8 months. She immediately knows who the carrier is and is ready to defend that carrier by saying the carrier's been off for a week. And all I gave her was my name and the road I live on. And it is a road which goes 25 miles to the name of the town that it's named after. You'll hear me say that. And you'll also hear me give my address. I may bleep that out. This time I may just go ahead and upload it. I don't need crap for that. I want this resolved, and if social media is the only way to do it, or YouTube, God help us all. Because my situation has been unresolved for 4 years, and it's a lot worse than some of the YouTube videos. And my comments are such on the YouTube video that I mentioned earlier, of the person with the front porch that looks like mine. That one went global. It always worries me, it concerns me, what goes viral? Is it I'm not cool looking, somebody's not cool, so that video just doesn't go viral? Maybe they're rambling idiot, lunatic. Maybe that person's video doesn't qualify because it's not as pretty or nice sounding as Nancy Grace. Doesn't meet those high standards or TMZs. But I wouldn't mind if this one went viral with just the information I provide here, because it's gotten chronic. And luckily today, just today, and this is also so no YouTubers will comment, I found out I could get a redelivery because it's maybe new, but I've never noticed it in tracking information before. You know, you can Google a tracking number and then go to USPS and get the real tracking information. That's the shot you'll see. They also have a redelivery method there. Now that may not help. Another reason I may have subliminally never clicked on it before is because looking at it, I was just probably like that's going to help. It's not. There's a delivery she's supposed to be making to me today from eBay that probably will encounter the same difficulties. She may roll up the driveway. Rest assured, if she does, I'll make sure I get it on video, because there will be no untoward actions from me or words. I may even make it so I go on the other side of her vehicle where she is, come to think of it, because of the wrong side driver's seat, where a lip reader could tell what I'm saying and not, and I'll probably record that too on my cell phone to make sure she doesn't report back to her boss that, he caused aliens to abduct me and they all did things to me. Okay, so that's it for the video for today. I'm not going to let her shit and her local supervisor shit ruin my day. It's going to be 76 today. We've had nothing but poor weather lately, and it's already great. I'll go to the farmer's market and say, piss on it. You know, I'm just going to have a good day in spite of it. That's how you do things. Living well, always the best revenge. And you can serve it warmly to yourself on a day-to-day. Thanks.
Good morning, Bowling Green Post Office. This is Vicki. May I help you?
Hey Vicky, this is Mike Denny. I live on Morgantown Road. I'm having trouble with my carrier again, and I want to, I guess, talk to somebody. I don't know who I would talk to, but she keeps not delivering, failing to deliver my packages, and leaving me notices. She doesn't even try. She keeps leaving me sheets in the mailbox to force me to come downtown and fetch my mail, and she's not even making an attempt to drive up the driveway and place on the front porch. There's no signage on any of these packages, and I'm about to have to come down there again today. And
Okay, well, she hasn't been here all week. She's been sick.
well, she did it. You know, it is her, because she's told her sub to do the same thing. So I am blaming her. I want to make that clear.
I'll let you talk with the
Thank you
supervisor
very
just
much.
a moment.
Thank you.
Priority Mail Express offers one-day delivery to most major cities, and you can use our computerized USPS tracking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For more information on Priority Mail Express services from the United States Postal Service, visit us at www.usps.com. For delivery you can rely on, choose the United States Postal Service. Did you know that there is an important difference between certified and registered mail? Certified mail provides a mailing receipt and a record of delivery. But for valuable or irreplaceable items, you want the security of registered mail, where the location of the article is carefully controlled from mailing to delivery.
William Schaefer, how may I help you?
Mr. Schaefer, hey, this is Mike Denny. I live on Morgantown Road across from Causey's.
Yes.
I've had problems for 4 years with my carrier, Scarlett, and I know I was just told by a lady that she's not been working there. She's been sick or something for about a week.
Right.
But she's also caused me a lot of problems through her sub. She's told her sub to play the same games with me, and frankly, you know, I've complained. I have a lot, but I don't deserve the treatment I'm getting. She's holding all my packages for pickup downtown, and I just realized I can go online, and they've offered this new thing for redelivery, and I am going to go through that. But the fact remains that the more I complain, the more games she plays. And
what's the address?
the address is 1671 Morgantown Road.
Okay.
And lately, it was her the last time because it was more than a week ago. And that's why I think she's probably told her sub to start the same thing. In fact, her sub was with her the very first delivery she ever made to my house. And at that point, I thought things were copacetic. And in looking back, they probably weren't, because she probably thought I was a fool for overextending just welcome to her, because my aunt's a carrier. I was owning and operating a sole proprietorship computer repair business, and I was trying to let her know the very first time I met her that I was going to be her best customer and all that stuff. I'm sure she had a laugh, but I always do respect the mail carrier. I've never had a problem with any of them before now, and this has gone on for 4 years. She's caused my mail to get stolen by leaving the box open. Mr. Abrams came out, if that's his name, I don't know. He came out about a year and a half ago and inspected the mailbox, and then told me that it was very defensive. He was very defensive of her, and I understand that, but he left telling me that he couldn't do anything about her in the first place because she had seniority, quote, she had seniority over him. And at the time, I don't think he was a super yet, but he was going to be, and he didn't tell me that. And he said then that there was nothing wrong with my mailbox, but that she wasn't supposed to have been driving up my sidewalk to give me the mail, and she was just pitching it anyway, that like she was doing me some sort of a favor. So the more I talk, the bigger hole I dig for myself. And the more hoops I have to jump through, the more packages get left in the rain, if they're left at all. And lately, this makes 3 in a row. This one notice I'm gonna go fetch today at my mailbox. It's a 500-foot walk, no biggie. I need it. But this will be the 3rd delivery in a row that I've had. Well, not the 3rd in a row, but it'll be 3 out of 5 last ones that I'll have to go downtown and get if I don't do this online redelivery form. So I've had to switch all my package deliveries to my girlfriend's house, which include important medicines, high blood pressure, and I gotta say, she's not helping there. You know, this has gone on for 4 years. It's way too long, and I don't know what else to do. I've actually bought an expensive security mailbox, but I just haven't put it up yet. I want to know whether I need to have somebody come and inspect it, because it'll have to be, you know, before I finish it, it'll have to be inspected, because I'll be installing it. It'll be an installation. It won't just be a post. So I don't know what else to do. I've been at my wit's end for about 2 years. She's,
Okay.
like I said, it started with the
What is
mail.
going on with the packages?
Well, the packages is she's not even trying to deliver them. I've got a home security system that clearly shows that she never comes up the driveway. And to my knowledge, well, no. She told me when we first met, well, you know, I'll just drive up the driveway and deliver your packages. That's what I do here, because I didn't know how the packages were delivered. So that's according to her. And now that's changed, where she never drives up the driveway. If it's not small enough to leave in the mailbox, she just puts a note in there and forces me to fetch. And actually, I am saying this because of her attitude and Mr. Abrams' attitude later, which became very quickly after he left. As he was leaving, and on a phone call after he left, I complained again. She left the box open and mail was stolen. He said, "Well, Mr. Denny, I don't know what we're going to do about all this, but basically, I suggest you either come down and pay for a P.O. box, or you get yourself one of those security boxes." And I felt forced, and I felt it was wrong, and I told him. But she's playing games with me. She really is. She's very immature. I feel she's lied to a previous supervisor, including a regional super, and told him I had a, quote, large barking dog that scared her so she wouldn't drive up my driveway. And that upset me too, because the previous regional supervisor told me, called me to ask me, did I have that dog? And when I said, "Sir, I absolutely have not had a large dog since I was a child, and I had a collie, like Lassie," I told him at that point he could surprise visit my house any day of the week, me here or not, and he would never find that large barking dog, and I'll never forget his reaction. He said, "Yeah, that's what I thought." And I asked, "What exactly do you mean?" He said, "Well, she's been saying that about a lot of people," which indicated she's just not doing it. And when she doesn't feel like it, she leaves me a note, or she plays this game. She's left things on the front porch that were not, they were on the front stoop to where they would just get wet, and did. And she plays games with that. And she's done it since I started complaining. When I started complaining, it was just because she left the mailbox open. Nearly 80% of the time the woman touches my mailbox, she will leave it open to retrieve or deliver mail. She will leave my mailbox open. So once I started complaining, it spiraled out of control, and I just can't. She just keeps reaching and finding new ways to shirk her work, and then blame, and then it just keeps getting worse.
Okay.
I have never suggested anyone relieve anyone of a job in my life. In my life, even I had a Taco Bell worker come at me through the window, and he was definitely somebody they shouldn't have hired, and they had to physically restrain him. I didn't even bother. I just drove off. I didn't call back. But now this woman, I think she has a chronic behavior problem. She's very immature for her age. And based on what I've heard my aunt say, she's the opposite of what a good carrier is. And I suggest you do fire her. I'm just to the point where I've told you the last 15 times she's left my mailbox open. I mean, almost specifically when it's tax documents I had to retrieve off the road last year. And then she finds ways. She actually chooses her fights, so to speak. She picks days where the mail is extremely important. She'll leave that mailbox wide open, and then I'll have to go. I actually had to buy 500 feet of surveillance cable for my camera, and I'll have to dig a hole to take that all the way out to the road if I choose to put a camera out there to spy on my mailbox, to make sure she is doing what I know very well she's been doing. Because I've been told that Dan Abrams had every suggestion in the world besides hitting the nail on the head and blaming her. He said, well, it's probably just the mobile home park people going by and opening your mailbox. And I didn't think so. The regional supervisor I called the year before him, he told me, he indicated otherwise. And then the regional supervisor, I can't remember his name, it's George or something. He said he was actually following her around himself due to complaints. So I guess I'll just resend it, because I am not going to come down there, especially in the mood I'm in, by the time I just feel like this is ridiculous. So I'm just filing a complaint. I'm not going to come down there and go postal. I'm not. I am going to, however, use every...
I really don't appreciate that term.
Well,
really
you know what? You can appreciate or not appreciate anything, but I certainly will tell you this. If you lived where I live, you wouldn't appreciate this service you've received and the hoops you've had to jump through, and inconvenience, lost and stolen mail, wet mail. So you can keep that term to yourself. You can be offended all you want. You take it to God, mister. I'm pissed now. See, I'll hang up on you before I say anything. You're worthless.
Sir?
You people are worthless. You're not going to do a damn thing except be defensive and shit on me. That's what they do. They take offense, don't they?